In this video, I'll be talking about Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. Now, as we know, in order to access Microsoft 365, we type in the URL office.com. So if you type in office.com, you will be navigated to Microsoft 365 portal. There is another URL like say portal.office.com, and within that same URL you will be navigated to microsoft365.com. Again, this is same like when you navigate to office.com, it will take you to that same interface of Microsoft 365 application. Then there is something called as an admin center, whereby you can configure various administration related settings related to users, distribution group, security group, billing, copilot related setting, reports, etc. Right now, this is for monitoring and managing admin center activities related to Microsoft 365. But if you want to specifically configure Microsoft 365 apps related setting, then there is a URL called as config.office.com. So if I type in config.office.com, it will take you to this page called as Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. Now here it says this site basically helps IT administrator deploy, manage, monitor, and secure Microsoft 365 apps within your organization. So, specifically Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Whiteboard, Loop. So, there are many components which there are some configuration settings which you can do using Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. So, what you can do, you can create a new configuration for Office deployment. You can import and modify your existing configuration. So, there are a whole bunch of things which you can do using this Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. Now, this is different from Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So, this is specifically related to Office. So, we say Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. So, if I click on sign in, it will sign you in. It will ask for your credential, and then once you type in your credential, you will be inside Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. Now here, there are a lot of things happening. So if you see on the left-hand side, you have home, cloud update, customization, health, inventory, learn more, and setup. Now here you see office policy. So if you want to navigate to the cloud-based policy for Microsoft 365, you can navigate to Microsoft 365 cloud-based policy, which will take you to the customization section. And here you can configure the policy. So I have one policy created over here. Again, going back to home, I have this device configuration. So you can create configuration files that will be used to deploy Office in the large organization with the Office deployment tool. So you can navigate to Office deployment configuration, and then here you can create a configuration. You can have a standard configuration, and then you can play around with the configuration in terms of copying, removing, downloading, uploading, those sort of things. Okay, so what we have over here in Cloud Update, if I click on Overview, this feature is basically not available with my subscription plan because I'm using a developer account. So here you will see everything related to the changes which is happening in terms of the application. Now there is a monthly enterprise channel, then there is a current channel. So here you will see all the feature sets related to specific channels. Okay, so any updates happening within the cloud apps you will be seeing over here. Customization, then you have device configuration, which we have just seen. Now what is the device configuration? In device configuration you have an option of my configuration, that what you create, standard configuration, and modern app settings. Now in modern app setting, here you will see Microsoft Edge Web View. Now Microsoft Edge Web View, Microsoft Teams, it says the new team app is faster to enable chat, meet, call, and collaborate. So if you click here, you will have an option that the new Teams desktop app for Windows is built on foundation of speed, enable automatic installation. So if you take this, it will automatically enable the installation of Microsoft Teams for your tenant. Microsoft Edge View, here enable automatic installation of WebView to runtime. Again, the same thing. It is required for Microsoft Edge, which gives basically a rendering engine to display web-based feature in a desktop application. Now, in standard configuration, there are a lot of settings over here. So if we go into say one of the settings is Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise 32-bit on current channel. So as you see over here, you'll see all the descriptions related to that. you can select this and you can download that standard configuration. So if I download that configuration, it will download that XML file. So I'm not going to do that. Just like all the deployment configurations are ready made available over here. So there are a whole bunch of things related to Office Professional 2019, Visio Online Plan, Project Online Plan, anything related to Office. And there is uninstall all Office product configuration as well. So if you download this, it will automatically uninstall all the Office products for a specific user or for your specific group. Policy management. Now here, this is an important part from a policy management perspective. Here you can create a policy within your organization. So I have created a policy related to loop preview feature. Okay, now say take for example, if there are new updates which are coming within the application and I want that update. Okay, so as you see over here, I have this various applications over here. So if I go into apps, I have Microsoft Loop. So let me show you that if you want to go to loop, so you have an URL like loop.cloud.microsoft. And now if I click on sign in, it will again ask me to sign in. And then once I sign into this application, I will be navigating to the loop application. Now within the loop, there are different channels. Okay, so I have subscribed to the preview channels. Now there is no direct way through which you can enable the preview for Microsoft Loop. Okay, so you need to go into say settings and then check. There's no direct way through which you can enable that channel. However, if you go into say about, here also you will not find any loop preview feature components. Right now, in order to do that, what you need to do is like you need to create some policy configuration. Now I'll go through the policy configuration one by one. So let me first delete this policy configuration which I had. So I'm just deleting the policy. We'll create policy from start. So we'll create this policy. Okay, so I'll just call this policy 1. Okay, and I'll put the description. I'll click on next. From a scope perspective, it says this policy applies to all users within your organization, or does it apply to a specific group, or it applies to users that access documents anonymously using Office on the web. So we can select the scope. Okay, now once you select the scope, you can add the policy component. So I'll say okay, this applies to all users within my organization. I'll click on next, and then these are the set of policy which you can configure. Now there are total 2242 policy which you can configure. Out of that, 137 is security baseline, 44 accessibility baseline related, and I haven't configured any of this. Okay, now if you see this filter icon over here, here you can clear the filter, you can create a standard filter, and this is that all policy. Now there is another option over here which you can see, the normal list or a compact list. Okay, and you can search for items over here. Now, as you see over here, there are applications. Okay, so this column application. Now, this is an access icon. Okay, now if I just scroll, I see a lot of access icon. Then we have an office icon. Then we have an Excel icon. And then we have if you hover, this is an office icon. And then if you further hover, you will see various different applications related to Microsoft 365. So Office has a lot of settings over here because it's like 2242. Then we have OneNote based settings, and then we have Outlook based settings. So all the settings we can configure. Then we have Microsoft Project, then we have Teams, then we have Visio. So all these applications we can configure. Now, what things we can configure? Okay, now say take for example, if you're deploying Office within your organization, and if you want one setting to be configured same for all the user when you deploy. Okay, you can do that. So take for example, if you want to turn off auto save in Excel. Okay, so Excel, once it is connected to OneDrive, automatically the file will be saved, but you want to turn off that functionality. So you can search for it. So let me just search turn off. And turn off, there are a lot of things is coming over here. Let me pick up this turn off auto save by default in Excel. So what happens with this is, now remember, this is not an Excel functionality, but this is an Office functionality. Okay, so if you say turn off auto save by default in Excel, Word, or PowerPoint, I'll click on this option and it says this policy setting allows you to turn off auto save by default in Excel. So if you want to turn off If you want to turn off autosave by default in Excel, you can configure it over here. So in configuration setting, I'll just say enable, and it says use autosave in default setting, or say autosave is on by default, or I'll say autosave is off by default. Okay, this is what I want. I'll click on apply. Now the moment you click on apply, the value of configured becomes 1, because we have configured one setting and this is come as tick. Similarly, I can do for PowerPoint as well. So I'll just say come here and I'll say it is off by default. So I've configured to policy. Okay. Then in Excel, I have a default font, right? So if I just type in font, so let me search for font over here. Now here default font. So in application of Excel, if I want a default font to be configured, I can do that. First, I need to turn on the configuration setting, and then here I can just type in say Verdana maybe 10. This is what I want, the default configuration settings. I can do that. So next time when the Excel loads within your organization for the users, it will automatically default to this font. What are the other things we can do now? In say while building Power Apps, we have this something called as templates. So we make use of the developer tab in Excel or Word, right? Now if you want that developer tab to be enabled by default, because that is not enabled by default, we may need to go there and change some settings within the menu. So in order to make the developer tab visible, what we can do, we can just type in developer and say display developer tab in the ribbon for all this application. So I want it specifically for Word. So I'll go over here and say not configured, enabled, apply. That's it. So this is set in the policy. Then we have LinkedIn feature. Sometimes we have this LinkedIn feature within the application. So it says allow LinkedIn feature in Office application, or allow LinkedIn resume assistant feature. Now, if I want to turn off the resume assistant feature within my organization for Microsoft Word, I can do that. I can come here, click on disabled, and click on apply, and this feature will be turned off. What are the other things we can do while sharing a file? When we share a file within Microsoft Office, okay, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of options which happens. Okay, so let me just type in share. So if I just, so there are other things you can default shared file location. Then there is a share file. Let me see if I find that option. So I'm not able to find that share file option, but if I just type in share, I will be able to see various sharing related stuff. Let me search for file. Yeah. So from a sharing file perspective, we have this default shared folder location, okay, or default SharePoint catalog location. I can configure that. I can come here, I can enable it, and then put the default SharePoint catalog, and then that will be as a default, which will be set in. Similarly, if I want to disable say OCR, there is something called as OCR, optical character recognition, in OneNote. If I click on disable OCR, and if I say this policy turns off OneNote image optical character recognition, if I do not want to be configured, I just need to enable it, which will disable the OCR. Okay, so I can do that. Then in Outlook, we have something called as mail tips. So if I just type in mail tips, let me close this and yes, so disable mail tips. So if I go to Outlook, and if I do not want the mail tips to appear within the Outlook, I can go ahead and I can say either enabled or disabled. And if it's disabled, from this point onwards, mail tips will not be shown. Similarly, as I showed you that, like in Loop, if I want to see the preview feature, okay, I can go here in the setting and I can just type in Loop. And within Loop, there is an option over here. If you see here, it says enable preview features for Loop. So if I want the new feature for Microsoft Loop, I can come here and then I can say, okay, I want this to be enabled. So any new feature set within the loop will be available for you. So this says this policy controls the availability of preview feature, also known as beta feature, within this loop. If you enable this setting, user will have access to the preview feature in Loop. And if it is enabled, I'll click on apply. It might take some time for this to process. And then from here, you will see, once you log into Loop, here you will see loop.cloud.microsoft. Here you will see a preview component. Okay. Now once, but we need to publish this policy. So I haven't published the policy as of now, but if you do that, you will be able to see that. And there are so many other settings, so I'm not going to go through each and everything, but there's a planner loop component. Then there are Jira related settings, so all these things can be done using this policy management. So once you're done with all this policy, just click on next, and then the next step is basically to check how many policy you have changed. What is the scope is for all users, 8 policies configured so far. I'll click on create, and then from that point onwards, that policy will be pushed within your tenant. So this is how you basically use Microsoft 365 apps admin center to create a policy. There are other things like if you go to health, here you have app health, security update status, OneDrive sync, service health. It will give you an information about how the application is performing. Now, I do not have a lot of metrics defined over here, but if you within your organization, you might see a lot of things happening. Like if you go to app metrics, here you will see, are there any significant deterioration for this particular apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, OneNote, Access. And from a channel metrics perspective, here you will see all the details of which current channel it is, and if there are any advisories. Okay, so you can navigate within that channel, and then you can see how this is all spanned up. So if what's the release version, what is the release type, and then you can see various other feature sets from here as well. Then advisories, so if there are any advisories with regards to any specific applications within that channel, here you will see that complete list. Then we have security update status, OneDrive sync, service health. So there are a whole bunch of things listed over here. So you see devices issues, if there are any issues happening within the OneDrive sync app, here you will see all this information. Then there are service health and inventory. So again, all these options are available for you to configure Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. This is different from Microsoft 365 Admin Center because this is mainly focused within Microsoft 365 based applications like Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and then if you want to do any configuration with regards to that application, you can go ahead and do that. So that's it, folks. This is all about config.office.com, Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. Thank you.